We bought 217.67 shares last month, which sounds like a really crazy high number, right? Well, perhaps not to everyone, but it feels pretty significant to me. Now, if you watched my last video, you may remember that I'm in the process of converting some of our assessments into dividend stocks so we can work on creating a steady passive income stream each month and each year. So after years of savings, we're just making some changes to our portfolios. So when you see the volume of what we did in June, just remember that we're doing some reconfiguring right now and that this volume of purchases is definitely not sustainable. I'll be back to small potatoes really soon, but we bought shares or fractional shares in 18 different individual companies, and we actually invested in 3 different ETFs. So let's talk a little bit about the strategy that we're using. In an effort to maintain a diversified portfolio, we want to ensure we're hitting the majority of sectors in the market. So for those of you who don't know, there's 11 different sectors: energy, materials, industrials, utilities, healthcare, financials, consumer discretionary, consumer staples, information technology, communication services, and real estate. The GICS, or the Global Industry Classification Standard, was actually developed jointly by Morgan Stanley Capital International and Standard & Poor's, and is basically a method for assigning companies to a specific economic sector and industry group that best defines its business operations. So we're going to see how well we did this month in maintaining a diversified portfolio. So let's talk about what we purchased in June. I'm going to do this alphabetically because my brain works best that way. So let's start with abbvie. The ticker symbol is abbvie, and they're a biopharmaceutical company. They're doing research and they're creating or improving treatments in the areas of immunology, oncology, neuroscience, eye care, virology, and aesthetics. I'm not sure about all of you, but I have family members whose lives have been dramatically changed by some of the medications coming out of this company, so I'm all in. With a 5-year dividend growth rate of 19%, we actually added 8 shares of this company, which over the course of the year is actually going to add additional annual dividend income of $11.48. The next purchase we made is Algonquin. In the utility sector, we purchased a whopping 48 shares this month. And with a forward yield of 3.67%, this purchase will add $8.72 to our annual income. Moving on to the financial sector, we picked up 4 shares of BARINGS Business Development Company. This is still one of my riskier purchases with only 3 years of a growing dividend and a forward yield of 10.09%. And these 4 shares are just going to add 96 cents to the yearly dividend income, but sometimes you got to roll the dice just a little bit. This is one of my riskier moves. Moving on to Chevron, a part of the energy sector, we added 3 shares, and with a forward yield of 3.88%, it's going to add $4.26 each year. PENBRIDGE is another company in the energy sector, and we picked up 5 more shares. With a forward yield of 6.23%, this purchase adds $3.30 to our passive income stream each year. If you watched my last video, I share how we achieved $160 in dividend income in June, and it was there that I spoke about Ford, potentially being one of my earlier mistakes. But for some reason, I can't help myself, and I picked up 4 more shares of Ford. I don't know. It has a forward yield of 3.53%. The price, along with everything else in the market, just made me think sale, and so I had to do it. It has 0 years of dividend increases. So what am I doing? Anyone else have a company that goes against your own metrics, but yet you still keep buying it? I would love to hear what company it is for you. Share it with me in the comments. But anyway, my 4 additional shares of Ford, they're going to give me that additional annual dividend income of $1.60. But I keep doing it. I'm not sure why, but would love to hear from you guys in terms of what you're purchasing that doesn't necessarily go along with your plans or your metrics. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just stick to your plan. I don't know. I've got some weaknesses here. Intel, ticker symbol INTC, it kind of checks all the boxes for me. It's in the technology sector, has a forward yield of 4.02%, a 5-year dividend growth rate of 6%. So we picked up 34 more shares. This is going to actually add an additional $12.47 to our annual income. I'm definitely sticking with Intel. This one's far, far superior to my 8 shares of Ford that I have. Not sure why I keep buying that. Anyway, We also picked up another 4 shares of JEPI, or J.P.Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF, still a mouthful, and this is going to add an additional $2.75 each year. Oh, and did I mention it's a monthly payer? Love it. Lockheed Martin, the next one that we picked up, ticker symbol LMT. We added 2 more shares of this stock in the industrial sector, and this is going to add an additional $5.60 to our annual passive income. Main Street Capital falls in the financial sector, and we picked up 22.6 shares in June, adding $4.87 to our annual income. This one's also a monthly payer, just like JEPI, so we're going to keep buying more shares when the dividends roll in. Medtronic is another stock that checks all the boxes for me. This is another one in the healthcare sector. The company manufactures things like insulin pumps, pacemakers, and therapies for diabetics. We picked up an additional 1.2 shares in June, adding a whopping 83 cents to the bottom line, but I'm definitely planning to add more to our Medtronic position over time. The company has a 2.98% forward dividend yield with a 5-year dividend growth rate of 8%. I'm just waiting for it to go on more of a sale. 3M, a part of the industrial sector, we picked up 1 more share of 3M, which has a forward dividend yield of 4.64%, which is nice, but the dividend growth rate seems to be on a downtrend, which makes me a bit leery. The 5-year growth rate was at 5.38%, the 3-year went down to 1.98%, and the 1-year growth rate is at 0.68%. So we only got that 1 share, and this is going to add $1.49 to our bottom line. Yeah, the 1-year growth rate at 0.68% is still better than forward, but we'll see what happens with this one too. Altria Group is a part of the consumer staples sector, and we bought 34 shares in June with a forward yield of 8.52%. That's pretty hefty. These additional shares of the SIN stock will add another $31.02 to our passive income each year. Realty Income, ticker symbol O, is a real estate investment trust. It has a forward yield of 4.23%. And the measly 0.37 of a share that we bought pays us another 9 cents a year. Did I mention it's a monthly payer? I love it. It just wasn't as good a deal as some of the others in June. That brings us to Procter & Gamble, a part of the consumer staples sector. We purchased 9 shares, and this is going to add an additional $8.22 to our annual income. This company has a forward yield of 2.5% and a 5-year dividend growth rate of 5.43%. The 3-year gets even better at 6.73%, and the 1-year gets even better than that at 10%. So definitely trending in a solid direction. I'll definitely be looking to pick up more shares of Procter & Gamble. Ruger, part of the consumer discretionary sector, it has only 2 years of dividend growth, so another riskier move on my part. It does have a forward yield of 4.23%, and we picked up 2 more shares, and this is going to add an additional $1.36 each year. Another ETF we purchased was SCHWAB Strategic Trust, SCHWAB U.S. Dividend Equity ETF. We picked up 10 more shares, and this is actually going to add an additional $7.04 annually. This ETF has a forward yield of 3.36%. AT&T is part of the communications sector. We added 5 more shares with a forward dividend yield of 5.21%, and this is going to add $1.36 each year. TD Bank, which is a Canadian-based company, is actually where I do my banking. And I love that they answer their phones with, "How can I make your day better?" Anyway, we picked up an additional 8.45 shares, and with a forward yield of 4.2%, that $5.84 each year is going to make my day better. Thank you, T-Day. T.Rowe Price is another company that's a member of the financial sector. They have a forward yield of 4.16%. So we picked up 10.4 shares, and this is going to add an additional $12.49 in annual income. Now, last but not least, we picked up the Vanguard 500 Index Fund ETF, and we picked up 0.065 shares. And this is going to add to our annual dividend income by 37 cents. Let's see how well we did hitting all the areas of the market. In terms of the energy sector, we actually purchased shares of Chevron. Materials, we didn't pick up anything, but industrials, we sure did. We bought shares of Lockheed Martin and 3M. In the utilities sector, we bought shares of Algonquin. In the healthcare sector, we picked up 2 different companies, shares of abbvie and Medtronic. In the financial sector, we picked up lots of things. We picked up BARINGS Business Development, Main Street Capital, TD Bank, and T.Rowe Price. Okay, maybe a little heavy on the financial sector purchases in June. Consumer discretionary, we picked up shares of Ford and Ruger. In terms of consumer staples, we picked up shares in the Altria group. In terms of information technology, we picked up shares of Intel. Communication services, we picked up AT&T. And finally, in the real estate sector, we picked up shares of Realty Income. So not bad overall, 10 out of 11 of all the stock market sectors. Would love for you all to share what purchases you made in the month of June. And if any of you have a Ford, you know, that stock that you keep buying even though maybe you shouldn't, I'd love to hear about it. If you made it this far, thanks so much for staying with me and watching this video. And if you want, you can certainly go ahead and check out my latest video on the June dividend payments that we received. Stay hopeful and be well.